Hello, this is Jamie.
And this is Heather, and welcome to Using Our Inside Voice, a podcast where we awaken to the extraordinary meaning of everyday mundane life by passing it through a particle collider of different and differing perspectives. Today, we're continuing our discussion about the Great Reset that we tuned into in episode 13 and newly emerging patterns resulting from what feels like a painfully slow reveal.
Yeah, this is
Painfully slow.
so I got a few notes on the whole painfully slow thing.
Nuggets.
And I'm little nuggets, breadcrumbs, rather.
Yep, that is a theme. That is a theme.
It's a picture that we keep getting shown over and over again.
Well, I mean, and let's start with the whole story. The whole story is the other day, maybe like 4 days ago now, I heard a very strange sound in my house, and I couldn't figure out where it was coming from or what it was. All I could tell is that it sounded like Flappy Bird, just Flappy Bird, Flappy Bird. And it only happened maybe 3 times, and it never lasted long enough for me to trace the sound. And so I was very perplexed because I went from room to room and did my due diligence trying to find this sound and couldn't find it. And then the next day I heard it again, and it was a very frantic flappy, flappy, flappy. And I was like, okay, there is a bird somewhere in this house. And lo and behold, I discovered a poor little turtle dove that was trapped in the fireplace behind the glass doors. She had flown down the chimney and couldn't get back out. And there she was saying, "Let me out." And then, unfortunately for me, having never faced this situation before, I did let her out, and she proceeded to flappy flappy all around the house and perch in the room with the highest ceiling and the least exits and freak out. And she was in my house the entire day.
Hmm.
And I was like, what is happening? But the interesting thing is that we had actually talked about this in our Discord meetup when we talked about the show, last week's show or the week before show. And after that, after we, clicked out of the meeting or whatever, I went and I follow just a couple of tarot readers on YouTube. And lo and behold, I picked a tarot reading. It was like a pick a card, any card. And I picked a card, and it was all about birds and freedom, which was the first breadcrumb that actually sort of guided me anywhere. The other breadcrumbs were like, wakey, wakey, there's a bird. What could it mean? And and when you hit that first breadcrumb, you're always like, okay, but is this a sign? Is it a message, or am I just, reaching? Oh no. You're not reaching. We're trying to give you a message.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's lots of opportunities for that to happen right now. So if there's anybody else out there who's feeling like I have no idea if I'm getting something or not, I might be getting something. Even if it's the most random, actually, the more random it is,
The better.
the closer attention you should probably pay to it.
Yeah.
Especially right now, because we're basically, when we say reset, that has many meanings to it. That's going to continue to evolve for us this year. And the way that we are receiving is being reset. And, it's things are going to show up in your life right now, kind of across the board. You're going to hear it in your regular life. You're going to hear it, when you're out doing, whatever fun extracurricular activity type thing you like to do. If you're into ghosty things and you're watching a ghosty show, it's going to show up in a ghosty show. If you're listening to our podcast and something comes up for you and it rings a bell, that's another way that it's going to come up for you.
That
You're going
was
to see it
so
in a
Minnesota.
commercial.
Did you hear yourself if you're listening to our podcast?
Podcast.
Where are you from? Okay,
I don't
continue.
all
Yeah.
over, all over. You're going to continue to see it pretty much everywhere you look. Billboards, TV commercials, on the radio, random, and the more random, the closer you should pay attention,
And the question is, are you
because
going to be aware that you are seeing it?
you're not going to be aware at first. It's
Exactly.
You're not going to be aware at first. It's going to take a lot of little flappy flappies and a lot of little breadcrumbs before you start catching on. And I think my biggest advice right now would be to really try to be kind to yourself. And I've said that a lot in the last several months as we're going through things, but no, really. Try to be kind to yourself. Don't feel like you're slow, like you're just not catching on, like you're the only one. It's happening to all of us right now.
Mhm.
And it doesn't matter how studied you are or how new you are to the game. We're seeing it everywhere we look. And like with all the things that are going on in my life right now, with going through all the prep work for the bariatric surgery, and that is a long road with lots of moving pieces. I was watching some videos today, and one of the, kind of, you play a video on YouTube, and another video pops up after that one, a suggested one that you maybe didn't choose. And the gentleman that I was watching, the first thing that he said was, everything is changing because you have changed, or you are changing. And I was like, whoop, pay attention. It's kind of like the little electric buzz that kind of goes down your spine and makes you sit up a little straighter, and kind of makes you, turn your head forward and pay attention. Whenever you get those little physical cues, those little physical hints like that, pay attention to those too. There's a lot of things coming together all at once, but it's important. It's important to remember that we've crossed a major threshold, and we're in a space now where, yes, we are creating a new place to be. We're going through the processes of creating the life that we want to live in, but it does take time to do that. It takes time to kind of realize where you're at in your own process and where you want to be. And on top of all of that, we're shifting the way we're receiving right now, big time. So for people who are already sensitive, for people who are empaths or intuitives or mediums or psychics, however you are receiving your information, however you've been receiving your information, expect there to be changes. Most likely you are already experiencing them. And you might be feeling like you're just going through a lull right now, like it's a slowed pace. There's not a lot coming in. I don't know what's happening. I
Fog.
feel disconnected. I feel
Disconnection,
foggy.
fog, yeah.
All those little things. But it's it's okay. Right before we kind of hopped on today, I had like a major downpour of info from my guides and higher self. And that was one of the biggest messages, was that right now we have we've come into a space energetically where the frequency has changed. We have helped to elicit that change in frequency. We've helped to create the frequency that we're currently in, but we're kind of stuck in a spot where we're learning a new language almost. We're learning the language of a new frequency, and we are working on translating that, and it's hard. So they're already in the space. They're already accessing it. We're accessing it, but we're not fully accessing it yet. It's it's being filtered. And we have a lot of areas where things need to be filtered because we are in a physical form. So where we may be getting things a little easier if we are, if you're spending a lot of time in meditation, if you are, kind of in that headspace a little more. And I'm not talking about physical headspace, but more metaphysical headspace, more of that, that spot where you're feeling more in tune. Yeah, for the moments that you're in that space, it might be a little bit easier for you to receive. But for your daily going around self, it's going to take a while before you're able to truly anchor that, because you're going to be pulling that into your physical body and moving it through all of those filters as well to help anchor that frequency in this physical space. And that's hard.
Mhm.
That's not easy work.
What I realized I was going through yesterday was I was receiving messages and I was once again dismissing them out of hand because I didn't realize they were messages. Because my focus in order to get to where I am now has been very narrow. I've been very I vacillate between thinking it was a healthy focus and, it was the needed focus is what it was. And now the focus needs to be broadened. It needs to be widened. It needs to be expanded because we have arrived in a place where, if you remember, actually on 11/11, the 11/11 portal in November, we were given the image of a blank white board game, white pieces, white spinner, white cards. Everything was blank. It was just all white. And what they're saying now is that the way to fill in that board game, the time is now to fill in that board game. And the way we're doing that is bit by bit. We're following this trail of breadcrumbs. And for me, the breadcrumbs look like getting back out and interacting with society, which is, it was something that was taken away from us during the pandemic and is now we're now needing to go back out there and interact because there's no way we can tell how we've changed if we don't use the mirror of the greater expanded reality, material reality, to show us
Absolutely.
what that interaction
Absolutely.
looks like. And so it's not just for me. I'm always focused on, but I don't like being out there. I don't like being amongst people. I don't like being in traffic. I don't like dealing with those types of things. And what I realized is all of the messages I was getting were pulling me out there. I don't have a
Mhm.
problem being out there once I'm out. It's the getting out that's the problem a lot of the time. And there are a lot of excuses in the way. There are excuses like, I don't have the money. I don't really feel like dealing with the traffic. I don't have the resources, or I want them to go somewhere else. And what I'm realizing is that these I have to learn to relearn how to recognize the pull,
Yeah.
because I'm being pulled to things that I hadn't been pulled to previously. Previously, I was pulled to inner work. I was pulled towards dismantling myself. I was pulled towards really digging in and getting messages. Now that work needs to be grounded into our reality, not necessarily for the priority of changing our reality, but for the priority of showing ourselves how we've changed, already have changed our reality. You are not the same person you were 6 months ago,
Mm-mm.
especially if you're anything like us and you've been doing intensive, what they call it shadow work, or you've been doing intensive meditation, or you've been having great changes in your life and you've been sort of cocooning or hermiting. If you've been in that energy where you've pulled back and you've been a hermit and you've really been tuning into the messages you're receiving, and analyzing your life from that perspective, then you're going to be pulled back out into your environment so that your environment can show you how different you've become.
And you're learning all over again. And they kind of they gave me a funny word after we got off the phone with each other a while ago. They used the word Kittessance instead of Renaissance. You're going through a Kittessance.
Got it.
You're we're taking you back to square one a little bit, back to when you were a kid. So again, also don't negate if things are coming up from your childhood. If all of a sudden there's a song that you want to listen to or an old movie that you want to watch, or you're seeing things from your childhood starting to materialize, which we touched on in the last episode, some of these
Hmm.
people from our childhood starting to get their renaissance, they're having their kinnessance.
Hmm. Hmm.
They're being reintroduced kind of in coordination with things that they did from their childhood or their young adulthood. And it's like, we want you to play those games again. We want you to go out, and it's like the adult version of hide and seek or scavenger hunt or treasure hunt. They're leaving new breadcrumbs that are leading towards whatever your new signs and symbols are going to be.
Hmm.
Whatever your new all the normal ways that you learn to communicate with that kind of higher self or spirit world. And the veils have been thinning and thinning and thinning, and in certain areas around us, those those veils are so thin that we can walk right through right now. And they're going to lead you to areas where it is that thin so that you can experience that, so that you can get a taste for what it's going to be like in the future to communicate on the same level. We're not quite there yet. We're
Hmm.
creating we're creating new systems to be able to do that. And
And there's going to be some difficulty for a lot of
yeah.
people out there because the term that they fed me was imagination games.
Mhm.
And because our society is so hell bent on making the imagination trivial, on trivializing our imagination, that the message has always been imagination is for kids, maybe for artists, but you still have to be responsible and you have to take care of your duties, and it's true, there needs to be balance between anything, whether it's imagination and the material world and being responsible in that world or whatever. But what they're telling me is that a lot of you left brainers out there are going to have a really difficult time because the task at hand is to allow whatever thoughts, practices, pulls, passions come to mind as a result of using your imagination, allowing those to exist in a way that feels real. Because
And
our
where you can explore
instinct,
them.
yeah, well, our instinct is to ignore them. Our instinct is to minimize them, to push them aside, to say, yeah, yeah, well, we don't have time for that. We've got to be serious. And
Yeah.
that's going to be a problem. That is your next blockade because
Oh, man, yeah.
spirit wants you to allow your imagination not only to expand, but can you step into a situation like for us, it would be ghost hunting. Now, we've done it enough to know that what we've experienced is 100% happening in the environment.
Yeah.
We've done it enough to know, we've captured enough evidence to really cement it and ground it in our physical environment. However, there are people out there that are curious about it and too afraid to take a step towards it because it's silly or it's not real or I need to have healthy skepticism. Your healthy skepticism is about to be really challenged, and I wish you much luck.
Really challenged. And almost the sillier. and weirder that something appears,
Mhm.
again, the more it's like, see if you can see past the 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 paint of silly and weird. See if you can see past that particular veil or connotation that you've labeled that thing, and ask yourself, what what is that? What am I seeing here? What am I feeling here? What am I actually what's the experience? Yes, yes, that thing is silly, or, however I'm registering it. But what is it trying to tell me?
Right.
How is it speaking to me right now? Why was my attention piqued? Why why did that in particular catch me? Or if you see something and it's irritating you, you might see something silly or funny or weird, and it actually gets on your nerves and irritates you. Why? Why is it getting your goat so much?
Mhm. And I'll give you an example that's incredibly mundane, but so, at least for me, potent, and I think a lot of people
Okay.
will identify with it. My example that I'm battling with right now is I'm on the road to freedom. That's my goal. I want to be free. I want to be free of as many systems as possible. I want to be free, especially financially. I want to be free with my time. I want all of my resources to be used by me for me in the way that I want. And I have a story. It's not that I just realized it, but it's that I re realized it in a new way. I have a story that right now I need to defend all of my resources from being taken or used irresponsibly. In the name of pragmatism, I am being incredibly frugal and I am being very minimalist with my wants that I fulfill especially in terms of finances, using my money. I'm very eagle-eyed as to where my money is going and to where my energy is going and what I want to spend my time on. And what I realized yesterday is that I'm doing that to a fault. And the way I'm doing that to a fault is I'm feeling drawn to do certain things and I'll tell myself, no, I should save money there. I shouldn't do that because it'll waste gas, and gas is expensive right now, and I don't want to waste gas. And what the guides came through and finally hammered home was you can't be on the road to freedom when you are restricting yourself to the point where you can't do or go anywhere.
Right. And we just did a post on that too, an anorexic mindset.
Mindset. Yeah.
It's like, where are you restricting yourself to a point where, where it's really actually unhealthy
Yeah,
for
you're
you?
leaving no room for opportunities to come in. You're leaving no room for you to learn who you are. You're leaving no room for expansion. Where are you restricting yourself in the name of being thin or being free or whatever goal you're trying to set? Where are you
Exactly.
going overboard, restricting yourself in order to get there? Because as soon as you cross the line from pragmatism to absolute, utter, what's the word? Not denial. What's the word? Not diminishment. Insert the correct word that starts with the letter D here. As soon as you cross that line, you are now unhealthy. You've now distorted it. You've now taken a really clean intention and pure intention and you've twisted it into something
Yeah.
toxic. And you are now awake enough to be able to see where that's happening and where you're doing it. And that's what makes it different from how it used to be. How it
Yeah.
used to be, you were a product of your environment. You were using your environment's stories to navigate everywhere you went. Now, many of you have done enough work to where you can see that these stories are ridiculous and will never get you anywhere. They'll never get you to where you would like to be. And now perhaps you have the courage to even want things. You want freedom. You want creativity. You want your life to look a certain way. Are you going to be your own advocate in this
Yeah.
journey and allow yourself the freedom to make of it what you will, including recognizing when you're twisting something into a distortion, when you're
Yeah.
falling back into an old belief or pattern.
Because truly you are capable of seeing all those things and navigating that now. And that is another part of this journey, is recognizing your capability to see something, catch it, and go, yeah, that's not what I want to do anymore. That's not going to be a part of my narrative moving forward. I want to shift that.
Right.
And then you can put forward, a really honest intention and be more authentic about it. And the other thing that, like, this morning's post was about hoarding, quote unquote precious things. And that falls right in line with that. It's like, what things are you holding on to that have become precious items in your life, be it a an outfit that you only wear on special occasions, or a product, a perfume, or a skincare product or something that you're like, "Oh, I love this so much. I'm only going to use it so sparingly." And it's like, to what end? Are you going to wait for the elastic to go out in the fabric and then you can't wear it anymore? Are you going to wait for the product to spoil and expire, and then what did you gain from that? And the universe is only going to give you more instances where you have to keep restricting that, because that's the intention that you put around it. That's the pedestal that you set it on, was that this thing is so amazing, I'm never going to use it. That fine china, I'm going to keep it behind the cabinet and we're just going to stare at it like it's imprisoned. like like we're separating ourselves from things that are near and dear to us, instead of incorporating them into our daily lives and letting it be part of that thing that maybe sparks us. It's like, in the post today, we wrote about, well, what if you decided that you were going to put on that outfit and that you were going to wear that perfume? That might motivate you to go out. That might motivate you to, carry yourself a little differently and have fun and, engage more in your environment. If you decide to take that china out of the cabinet and use it, you might get more creative with the recipe that you make. You want to make nicer food or better food. You might have a story about it that you sit down and tell around the table, and that changes that environment because you're now incorporating it, and the universe is going to see that and give you more opportunities to do that.
Right.
So
And it's not just about you appreciating the thing that you're now using. It's the journey that once you agree to use that thing that you go on. And what's the journey? The journey is, now that you're using the good china, now you can really make a meal that's worthy of the good china. And how does that translate? It translates into nourishing yourself. And you get to
mhm,
experience in a new way you nourishing yourself, which is also a form of self love. So that love that you had for that thing, it hasn't transferred from the thing to you. That's a twisted
mhm,
way of looking at it. What has happened is you transferred your love for yourself onto that object. And
yeah,
once you took that object out and you used it and you made a meal that was quote unquote worthy of it, you made a meal that was worthy of you. And maybe that turns you onto a new path. Maybe you no longer want to eat junk food for dinner because you realized, I really enjoyed having a beautiful meal on those beautiful dishes. And suddenly, the evening meal, the cooking of the evening meal that used to just be kind of like, ugh, I hate it. That's why I'm eating junk food, because it's quick and easy. Maybe that becomes a ritual for you that you appreciate as much as actually the nourishment that you get from the food and the love that was put into it. You've just changed your whole paradigm. about food by using the good china. These objects hold our perceptions.
And they're keys to unlocking things like creativity,
Mhm.
and again, like you said, self-love, self-care,
Mhm.
nourishment, and then that spills out. That energy continues to ripple out into the world. Whoever you run into, whoever you invite to dinner, whoever, whatever the situation is, it's going to open you up and it's going to allow others to open up. And then you kind of, that's the passing along of this frequency that we're now in happens. We can't do it if we're all locked up and caging ourselves up inside.
Right. From our caves, our dragon caves with the bars of gold and the rolling fog, we're not passing along that frequency when we're doing that. If we go around and if we enjoy our things, suddenly we're enjoying ourselves. We're enjoying what we're doing with our time. We are expanding. And when we go out into the world and interact, the world is going to reflect back to us our expansion. People are going to look at us and say, "What are you doing that's making you so happy?" Or, "You look different. What has
Different.
changed?"
Yeah.
And it gives them permission and it sparks in them the idea that, gosh, I would like to attain that instead
Yeah.
of, I don't want, I don't want, I don't want.
Yeah. It's like a good smile or a good hug. You could be having the crappiest day and somebody smiles at you and wishes you a nice day. And that might be the thing that you needed to turn around your whole day. That little switch actually can lead to huge changes. And that's kind of what they're alluding to with these breadcrumbs. It's like, yes, we're leaving what feels like little teeny tiny bits of, information for you to follow, little teeny tiny leads. But those little teeny tiny leads, once we actually see that they're there and start picking them up and collecting them and putting them together, leads to something huge. It just takes time. But the more we can kind of find those areas where we can branch out a little bit, where we can kind of test the waters and allow ourselves to be a little more playful, a little more just sitting and allowing, period. Just sitting in the space of allowing and allowing that to be an intention for the day. If you don't know where to start and you don't know where to look and you feel really super lost, I just want to allow whatever needs to come to me today in a way that, it twinkles and sparkles and I want to pick it up.
I've got another example
Okay.
because I didn't even realize I was doing this to myself. And I've been sort of like in this space of, why am I here? What is it all for? I'm tired of the busy work. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm not experiencing any inspiration. I'm not experiencing any passion. I don't really want to do anything. I don't want to go anywhere. What is happening? What is going on? Right. So, yesterday, it finally hit me where I was like, but why are you thinking all of that? And
Hmm.
it occurred to me that I had a story that it was supposed to be different. And we've said this a million times. Everyone says this a million times. But what struck me and finally turned me on again was, what if your day is supposed to look exactly like it looks right now? Like, what if that's, do you not like your day? Is something wrong with your day? And I was like, no, I would love my day if I were capable of loving right now. That was the problem, is I was making myself incapable of appreciating things because I was living in the future that was going to destroy me.
Well, and you were living in a really restrictive space.
Well, that's why I was living in the restrictive space. I was trying to ward off the future, the inevitable future that was going to be unsuccessful and
Mhm.
pull
Got
me
it,
back
got
out
it.
into
Sure.
scenarios that I didn't want to be in, and how do I avoid it, and I was all don't want, and the don't wants right now are so well hidden because we've outed ourselves in so many different ways. We've done so much work on ourselves. We've been so introspective and hermited and cocooned, and we've really focused. We think we've done it. And I've got news for you. They're just the layers continue. And I just found a new layer on the onion, and the new layer on the onion looked like, I don't want that scary future to happen, even though I don't in this moment feel the intense anxiety and I don't do the intense spiraling that I used to do. That outcome is still out there, and I'm still focused enough on it to attract it to me by virtue of trying to avoid it. And so
Yeah,
the
it's still where
second I
your attention
started,
is going.
yeah, and the second I realized, oh, I'm doing the thing I'm always telling people not to do, and I didn't even realize it. I couldn't see it from where I was standing, and I knew it was there somewhere. I was aware enough to know that something along those lines was going on. It had to be, because it's just, that's the hallmark of that. When you feel like life is not giving you what you need, why does it have to be so hard? Why is this so sucky? Why did I sign up for this? It's because you have a story that something else should be happening. So if you in
Well,
that moment can ask yourself, okay, just looking at today,
mm,
was today really bad? Like, even beyond just being safe, because guaranteed you got through the day, you're still alive. But even beyond safety, was the day really bad? Did the weather suck? Did you shiver, freeze, or starve? Did you have a horrible run in with someone that you can't get over? Did you lose a loved one? You know, those things make the day suck. They do. And
mhm.
it doesn't mean that that's the end, that it ends at suck. It just, you know, over time, those things can build up and they're things you need to work through. I get that. But I'm not having sucky days. And yet I
Yeah.
feel like every day sucks. What is going on? I'm gaslighting myself.
Well, and part of that is also, the side effect of living a very insular life. If you're not going out, if you are hermiting, if you are staying in your cave, if you're not taking the opportunities to go out and explore, it's going to be really hard to show you examples of how it can be different because you're so wrapped up in the hermitness of it all that there's nothing else to experience. You're not giving yourself an opportunity to experience anything but that. You're just going to
Mhm.
be wrapped up in a little ball of suck
Mhm.
because you can't unwind yourself from that. And I get that there are moments where we go through that, and that is a part of the human experience. The thing that you have to eventually realize, though, is, oh, I'm not going to experience anything different if I don't leave this space.
Mhm.
And sometimes it is a mental space, and sometimes it is an actual physical space that you are
Mhm.
holding yourself hostage in, where you are not allowing yourself the opportunity to expand or to be expanded. And that's really hard as I'm kind of going through like the processes that I'm going through and the physical processes. Like one of the things that they are talking about a lot is the fact that movement is a huge part of this process. And I have been incredibly stagnant when it comes to movement in the last couple of years. And there are parts of me that are afraid of that because I have other issues that are kind of compounded by movement right now. But I also can see where it's kind of a two-way street. It's like, well, yes, but you still have to go out and do what you can do. But my mindset is such that if I can't run a marathon, then I might as well stay at home. I you
Yeah.
know, I get to the points where I'm very all or nothing about it, and it's like, you don't have to be it doesn't have to be an all or nothing situation. So try not to put yourself in the space where it's like, well, if I'm not receiving anything, then obviously my gifts have gone away. I don't have it. I don't have the stuff anymore. I guess I'm not, you know, whatever you want, however you want to paint that picture for yourself, try not to stay in that place because it's simply not true.
Well, eventually you break yourself down to the point where you have to ask. You just don't have a choice because the pendulum
Yeah.
has to swing back the other way. And you finally ask yourself, what do I have?
Yeah.
Well, let's go exercise that because I can't keep doing this to myself. I can't keep tearing myself down. I can't keep adding weight. It's like being in the Salem witch trials where they just add rocks until you confess. That's what we do to ourselves. When
Yeah.
we're in these states of mind, we just add another rock. You didn't do it, did you? You didn't do that thing you said you were going to do, did you? Add another rock. Clearly, she needs more pressure. And
Yeah.
it's just such a painful way to live. It's so arduous and exhausting and hard. And eventually you're like, I don't have it in me to do anything else.
Mhm.
But guess what? It doesn't matter how bad it gets. You still got to go do it. Regardless of whether or not you have it in you, there's no choice. There's no other way to go. You've backed yourself into such a tight corner that you have to, the only way out is through.
Well, and you create a type of stagnation in yourself. It's like it's funny because we think all the time about, coming from a paranormal background, you think about what happens in a stagnant space. And funky energy collects
Yeah.
in stagnant spaces. I cannot tell you the amount of times that I have had someone who has moved within the last year or two that finds themselves all of a sudden in their new environment with some sort of haunting, with some sort of somebody's watching me, creepy things are happening. I don't like that room. I don't like that basement. I don't like that bathroom. I don't like that whatever. And it's like, well, what have you done with that space? Do you still have boxes laying around? Has that space become your catch-all? Do you have unfinished business there? Or have you not put your own stamp on that space? Have you not shifted it from the previous owner? If you have not done those things, that is exactly when you are going to get the I don't feel right, so, everything is out to get me, I feel cursed. Strange things are happening. I can't sleep. I'm getting scratched. I'm like I've heard everything. I'm hearing strange noises. I'm smelling weird smells. Yes, because something is trying to get your ass up to move and do something. And it is, it's like it's going to create its own little monster over in the corner until you take care of it. And
Right.
literally that thing manifests so that you have something to do,
Yeah.
so that you have something to focus on, so that you have something, so that it clicks somewhere. Oh, I need to claim that space. I
Hmm.
need to make that space my own. I need to paint those walls. I need to throw those boxes out. I don't want that pile of old clothes. I should go donate that shit. Yes, you should. Absolutely, yes, you should.
And
And
it is possible
yeah,
for people to haunt themselves. That's
absolutely.
what that is. You're haunting yourself. And it's not just the dead that have unfinished business. When you have unfinished business, your environment, no matter how tightly controlled you think you have it, your environment is going to find a way to show you because your environment is a reflection of you. So if you are ignoring something, it is going to find a way to become unignored.
It's going to give you trapped birds in your fireplace.
It is. It's going to give you trapped birds, flappy birds.
Little flappy birds in your
Mhm.
fireplace. They're
Mhm.
like, "Please set me free. Let me go outside."
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. The other note that I am getting a lot right now is that along with these shifts in how we're receiving the physicality is of where we are. within ourselves is going to shift tremendously this year. So if you have health stuff going on all of a sudden, if or you're feeling like I need to make a change, I need to, adapt to a new way of eating. I need to, like, I don't feel great when I do this or that, changes going on in the body or with the body. That's going to be a big deal too, because that also changes the way we receive things. And more importantly, the way we anchor and ground things into this space. And that's another, kind of secondary work that we have with this new frequency is not only learning how to translate it and receive it, but also learning how to fully anchor it into our physical beings so that we can work with it, so that we can use it in a way that benefits us and benefits all of us and benefits the planet.
Mhm.
Because that's always, the big point.
And as
So,
with all things, it's a handshake between the change that's needed in order to anchor the new frequencies versus the change that you need to make because you want to make it. When you decide you want to make a change, it is going to automatically anchor in new frequencies. Deciding you want something is a different
mhm.
frequency. So as soon as you identify what you want and you decide to go for it in whatever way that means for you, you are anchoring a new frequency. This doesn't have to be so esoteric that we're just in the clouds and speaking the woo. You don't have to speak the woo for this. A new frequency means I've decided to go a new direction
Mhm.
for myself. As soon as you do that, no matter what direction you're going, as long as it's in the direction of, I want to go this way, you have anchored in a new frequency that will change the planet because nothing is separate. Everything affects everything else. It's all a current, it's all wavelengths.
And it changes everything that's around you. It changes what you're receiving, when you're receiving it, how you're receiving it, the people that you run into, the situations that pop up for you. It's a chain reaction. Most of the time we're just not sitting in a place where we're aware enough to catch on to the things that are happening. But the more you play in it, the more you realize, oh, I see what's happening here.
Yeah.
And there are still going to be times when you get stuck in an old story for a moment.
Yeah.
You'll go back and go, okay, this feels really good. Uh-oh, something must be something bad must be around the
Yeah.
corner.
Around the
Let me
corner. The other shoe
let
is
me
about to drop.
let me hunker down and prepare for the storm. And it's
Right.
like, sometimes you just have to say fuck it and go out and walk in it a little bit
Yeah.
before
And
you
this
realize,
time,
oh, that cloud only lasted 5 minutes,
right.
instead
And
of
and
five
this time
hours.
I was really, really aware. When words would come out of my face, I was instantly aware that I sounded like a victim.
Yeah.
And I knew enough to know that the second I sound like things are happening to me, I'm disempowered. I've disempowered myself in some way. The
Hmm.
frustrating part this time, instead of being frustrated by the disempowerment, the frustrating part was, where's it coming from? Like, I know the call is coming from within the house, it's coming from inside the house, but where is it? What am I unable to see? That's the new frustration. Before, the frustration was, I'm being victimized, somebody help me, I can't help myself. Now it's, oh, I realize that I'm not a victim and that I'm the only one who can help me. And it's, in a way, it's even more frustrating because you know all of those things are true and yet you still feel friggin' helpless at times.
It's also really fucking funny because not only did it happen to you metaphorically, it happened to you
Yeah.
literally with the bird.
Well, not only with the bird, it happened. My car was breaking down all the time. It happened. I was stuck out in Egypt several times late at night, and I was having dreams about that. I had one dream that was nothing but a series of incidents that sucked. I was safe after each incident. I found my way through each incident, but none of it was enjoyable. I was just stuck in these incidents, and it's all a reflection of that victimhood that I was unwillingly and yet still consciously participating in. I was conscious enough to know that I was participating in it because I wasn't going to give up all of my knowledge that I've fought so hard for when it comes to self empowerment.
Right.
Self empowerment is my platform. I am here to help you empower yourself. And the only way I can help you empower yourself is by empowering myself and leading the way. I have to know how that looks. I have to know how it works. I have to know how you accomplish it for yourself before I can tell you how to do it for yourself. I have to know how to do it myself. So that is my whole, like, I'm going to walk the walk, damn it. And I'm sitting here for the past few weeks going, why does it suck so bad? I can't make anything happen. This is horrible. And yeah, I was even having dreams about it. And it's shitty, dude. It
Well,
sucks.
and the funny thing is the attitude is the mindset is really the thing, because although all you could focus on in that moment was that all of these things sucked, on the other side, the universe is also trying to show you, but every time you were safe and you were fine. Like,
Sure.
you were okay and you got
And I
through
was
it.
well aware of that. And no, it had almost made it worse because I was like, so what? That's the point. I'm just going to be safe every time life sucks. So life is just going to suck. But now I get to know that I'm safe in the suck. That's great. It made it worse. It a lot worse. I hated that part of it because I was very well aware and very conscious every time I was in a position that I had help of some kind, that I could either help myself or I could call on another to help me, that I wasn't going to die out there in the wilderness alone.
Mhm.
And as nice as it is to not have that be my reality anymore, the new reality sucks in a different way just as much because, oh, great. Now I'm doing a whole bunch of stuff that I don't want to do and I don't want to experience, but at least I'm safe so I can experience more of the stuff that sucks. And that was where I was trapped.
But it's also the nudge to, keep going out there. It's like you're going to experience the same thing over and over again if you cannot unplug yourself from that particular space in your head. You have to keep trying and keep going until it does shift for you. Eventually you're going to see it, because that's
Yeah.
just the way the world works.
Right. Well,
You'll
and the reason
eventually
you're
see it.
experiencing, you're getting all of these reflections for the sole purpose of seeing it.
I've seen it.
That's the
Exactly.
only reason you're getting the suck. The suck is showing you, hey, this sucks. Did
It's
you
like
see that? How much it sucks?
the more times it happens, the more it repeats itself, the more you can pretty much take that as a sign of, okay, there's something in there that needs to not be what it is.
Hmm.
Like, I'm being put back in the same situation over and over again to learn that there's something that needs to be tweaked. And
Within
usually
yourself.
within yourself, but it's usually a really small tweak. Like,
Yeah.
the tiniest thing can make a huge shift. A
Again,
huge
facets.
shift.
It's about the facets and it's
Mhm.
about shifting to that next facet. And every time I would tell people about my car, I still don't know if I'm out of the woods with my car breaking down all the time. I don't know if we've actually fixed the problem or if we just fixed part of the problem. I don't know what the deal is. The point though is that every time I would tell someone about it, because I have to let people know this is happening so that if I can't make it to something, they understand in advance
Yeah.
that, sorry, I might not have the wheels to get there. But the point is that every time I tell someone, they'd go, stupid car. And I was like, it's not the car's fault. Like, the car's just doing what a car does. Clearly something needs to be fixed.
Yeah.
And that those words coming out of my mouth applied directly to me. Before the car can have enough fixed to be dependable, I have to figure out what needs tweaking within myself because everything is a message back to you. about what work you need to do.
Yeah.
Also frustrating, by the way.
Sure. Well, and funny enough, we talked about a little bit last week that the issue with the car also might be that it's just not getting driven enough and it's not getting the opportunity to actually charge itself
Mhm.
because as you drive, your battery it gets to cycle. It
Mhm.
gets to cycle through that circuit and it gives itself some juice. So you can ruin a brand new battery if your car just sits and sits and sits and never moves, or if it's really infrequent and kind of spotty.
Which
So
incidentally ties right into all the self-work that we were talking about. If
mhm,
you are stagnant, it gets harder and harder to start up.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And again, this is a fiddly little process, and it's going to take some time to wrap your head around what it is that you need to do, what the message is that's trying to come through. But the more you, probably the best advice I can give is just really to be open to it right now and pay attention to when little things catch your eye or give you some sort of a physical reaction that you're not expecting, or when something doesn't make sense or seems weird or seems silly or out of place. They're all like, it's all going to come across as a little shing, a little shine in the matrix, a little warble, a little flash, a little rainbow out of the corner of the eye, a little shimmer. And let those little things hold your attention for a moment, because that little thing is going to be the thing that takes you out of whatever moment you're having, whether you're having a crappy day or you're in a bad mood or you're stuck thinking about something that you really don't want to think about. That's the thing that's going to pull you out of that moment. And if you just allow yourself to be pulled out of that moment and sit into that space a little bit and focus on that weird thing that seems very not a part of the rest of your day,
Mhm.
that might be just the thing that you need to continue picking up those breadcrumbs. You follow one because you recognize it, and then
Mhm.
you can recognize another one, and then
Mhm.
you can recognize another one.
And I'd say on top of that, add to it learn how to recognize the energy of the words that you use, because sometimes it can be just tricky. Sometimes we'll dress up these words and they won't sound alarming enough to notice. But
Mhm.
when you start saying things that make you feel like someone's out to get you, or the world is going to punish you, or you will suffer bad consequences, or if everything that you're thinking about is in the future and everything you're thinking about feels like a consequence that you don't want, guaranteed you are stuck in a mindset where you are the thought completely left my mind. You are in a victim mentality. If you are in a victim mentality, that means that, okay, so it's giving you the heads up that the story needs to change because you think something should be different. So ask yourself, a very pragmatic step, ask yourself, what do I think should be different? What am I not succeeding at? What am I telling myself I'm not succeeding at? And then take it one step further and ask yourself, what if everything is right as it should be?
Yeah.
What if just today everything is right?
Yeah.
Because it will completely change your narrative. You'll have no choice but to recognize the difference. Everything will change on a dime. If you can get to through that process to where you are able to ask yourself, what do I think should be different? What if everything's okay? What if everything's correct? Can you be brave enough to entertain that idea because it takes courage.
It does. And if you can't pull yourself out of that, expect to stub your toe.
Hmm.
And I mean, like, literally expect to stub your toe
Hmm.
because the universe will provide something for you that will bring you right now to the now moment.
Hmm.
And so, expect to shut the car door on your hand or stub your toe
Or
or,
sneeze and throw your back out.
or spill your
Something's going to stop
coffee.
you in your tracks. Something is going to stop you in your tracks. The second you get too used to the rhythm that you've created, now you're not going to be allowed to stay in that rhythm.
Yeah, something's
Now the
going to jostle
universe,
you.
yeah, the universe is going to continuously reflect when you are going back to sleep.
Yeah, because nobody's got time for that. The universe does not have time for you to go back to sleep.
Well, and honestly, forget about the universe not having time for it. You don't want that luxury because to think of it as a luxury is actually an illusion.
Yeah,
It's a distortion that you are shaking hands with. The universe, you have given the universe a message through all this intensive work on yourself that you've done. And that message is, I don't want to shake hands with that distortion anymore. Keep me awake. Keep me in this new world that I've created. And the only way to keep you in the new world that you've created is to throw things in your path that make you need to think.
yeah,
You've got to keep using your brain.
absolutely.
Can you stay focused in a moment enough to do that for yourself so that your external environment doesn't need to do it as often? There's no way to do it for yourself all the time. Nobody's perfect. That's an impossible standard to set. However, you all it takes is for you to recognize, oh, this is a pattern I do all the time. I'm walking
Hmm.
the same path all the time. That's interesting. You can continue walking the path as long as you are walking it with awareness.
Well, and I think that's why they're using the analogy of breadcrumbs instead of,
Yes.
we're giving you buckets. It's like, no, it's
Yes.
it's not an all or nothing. It's they're not giving you more than you can carry. They're giving you little breadcrumbs, little easy, manageable, bite-size pieces of something bigger that you can follow that is very manageable. They don't it doesn't have to be a all or nothing. It doesn't have to be oh wow, what an idiot I am. I'm going to have to change everything. You change one thing and then all the other things change for you
Right.
and fall into place. We put too much on ourselves. We put too many expectations on ourselves and we end up having these pictures of, oh my God, all the work that I'm going to have to do to get to that place where I want to go. And we make it a slog when it doesn't have to be
We were
a
trained
slog.
to make it that way. We were trained, and really, that was the control narrative. If we were so
Mhm.
busy trying to navigate a life where if the least little thing went wrong, everything fell apart, then we would not have the time, energy, strength, or resources to be aware of what was happening on other levels, on other playing fields that were adjacent to our own. It was a absolute control mechanism. And now that we're waking up, we are working out is the way they're putting it. This is a workout. We are sitting here thinking, how am I ever going to have the energy to stay that conscious? Like, how's that going to happen? At first, you're not. And that's why the design is perfect of a mirroring external reality. The external reality will pick up for you where you were unable to pick up for yourself. It'll reflect back to you, hey, here's where you are a victim or behaving like a victim or thinking you're a victim. Remember that you're not. Prove to me you're not. And so that will be sort of the fail safe mechanism. But ultimately, you'll get better and better and stronger at it. It's a workout. And you will be able to stay more conscious, and you will pull in all of your awareness from everything you were trying to control externally. You'll pull all of that awareness into yourself, and you'll realize the only thing you need to worry about is you.
Mhm.
Where once we were living in a control paradigm where we were taught that that was selfish, now we're living in our own paradigm where that is a necessity. You need to be worried about yourself.
And ultimately, it's an agreement that you already made. That higher you has already knows that it can happen, that you are capable of doing all the things to get yourself where you need to be, or you would not have signed up. You would not have said, "Okay, I'll jump in. Okay, I'll go experience this." If you are still here on this planet, it's because you have something special to give. You have something unique that needs to be added to the recipe to create what needs to be created.
And I want to touch on that for a minute because those words, for me, create imagery that says it's like a person standing on a stage giving a performance for an audience. That's the image that that creates for me. But what it really means is when someone says you have a gift to give the world, it means that you came in with a certain set of circumstances that were going to be difficult to get past, to work through, to heal. And the gift you're giving the world is that getting through your
Mhm,
circumstances, understanding who you are, what the circumstances were, and how you're going to navigate that for yourself. That's the gift we're actually talking about. We're not talking about you becoming famous, you becoming successful, you becoming whatever goal you have in mind. We're talking about you and your gift of navigating and healing through that set of circumstances that you came in with, because most of us have come in with very high hurdles
mhm,
to jump. And the hurdles that you're jumping, every hurdle that you jump is a part of that gift that you came to give the universe. That's the true work that you're doing. And it may come with fame, it may come with fortune, it may come with your version of success or your parents' version of success. All of those are just, mm, they're just factors at the end of the day. They don't mean anything. They're just part of the busy work of life that enables us to go on this journey.
it's an inevitability when you actually keep going forward and do it in a way where others get to experience it, because
What's an
that
inevitability?
the success, the quote unquote making it, the achievements, the contributions, those things are inevitable if you're continuing to do the work and opening yourself up enough to allow other people to see it, experience it. And it doesn't mean that you have to necessarily be putting it out on a huge public forum or stage, but just by, sharing it with somebody who's close to you, by, being a little bit vulnerable when you're just out in the world, or sharing a story, or allowing somebody else to see you doing that work.
Sure. But the point I was trying to make was that someone has to, a lot of people are going to have to redefine success in order to see that
Mhm,
version of it. That's what I mean. Because the word success is so loaded. It comes with
mhm.
so much expectation that until you are able to dump the expectations that the word came with and start redesigning what the word means for you personally, you're going to have a very difficult time achieving any kind of success or recognizing that you have achieved success. It's like a few weeks back when you were talking about how you were looking at all that you had done in your life, and you did the pride gallery for yourself on
Mhm.
Instagram about all of your accomplishments. You couldn't see those prior to having that moment where you decided you were going to allow yourself to see them.
Absolutely. And well, by not and in turn, by not allowing myself to see it, I also never allowed anybody else to see it.
Yes.
Even if other people were around, because I was putting such a shield over it. I was putting a great big blanket over it and downplaying it and giving no
Mhm.
energy to it at all whatsoever. And so, of course, there was no way that people were going to pick up on any of that. They couldn't. I wasn't
Mhm.
allowing myself to pick up on it. How can anybody else pick up on that energy if I'm not even allowing myself to receive it?
Right. It's like putting a big old cloak of invisibility
Oh yeah.
on your accomplishments, and it starts with you not being able to recognize it. Once you are able to recognize it, everyone can see it. That's whipping the invisibility cloak right off of whatever you were trying to hide.
Yeah. And
And
and that is a part of that whole I don't feel seen.
yeah,
I don't feel heard.
yeah.
It's like, well, have you seen and heard yourself? That was a tough one for me. That was a really, really tough one for me to wrap my head around, is that I had done it to myself. And it's
Mhm.
not a matter of like, punishing myself and sending myself to the corner, because how dare me, I didn't acknowledge my own work and contributions. That's not what it was about. It was about realizing, wow, I I hadn't allowed myself to appreciate myself and my
Yeah.
own accomplishments. That's
Yeah.
wow. I wanted to just turn to myself and say, "I'm sorry. I love
Right?
you.
Exactly. And
I
that's
didn't
so
mean it."
important. That's so important because instead of turning on yourself and treating yourself with malice, you had compassion for yourself. Like, oh no, you poor baby. Like, I do that all the time. I actually do it with everything in my environment. When something breaks, when I knock something over, I treat these things as I treat myself because now that's become a reminder to me of it.
Yeah.
It really is it's so cliche, but it really is the reminder to me of the golden rule.
Mhm.
Do unto others, including other stuff. Everything I do,
Yeah.
I am trying to treat it the way I would treat myself. I would want to be treated, and not to want to be treated by others. That's where we go wrong with the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. I'm not worried about them doing unto me. I'm concerned with me doing unto me.
Yeah.
That's where self-love comes in. And that's when you're self-loving, is when you are looking at your environment and you are treating everything in it as you want to treat you. You
And
poor
your environment
thing.
will reflect it back to you.
It absolutely will. You don't have to worry about what other people are doing if you are doing right by you. Because one of two things is going to happen. Either everyone will fall in line with how you treat yourself, they will treat you, or they won't. And you, because you love you and you have empowered you through that love, will say, clearly, we're not of the same mindset. And you will no longer have that person in your life.
Yeah.
And it becomes incredibly simple at that point.
Yeah. These are not easy lessons, y'all. It's tough stuff, but at the same time, I keep getting these interesting messages where it's like, look, some of this is going to feel like you're moving in reverse, like you're taking steps backwards, like you're relearning something. You are relearning something. You are kind of, in essence, taking a step backward, but you're not taking a step backward because you didn't do something right or because you did something wrong. You're taking a step backwards because you did something right, and you're getting the opportunity to have the experience in a new way and lay down a new foundation and give a new perspective to that situation and treat it differently and treat yourself differently and react differently or maybe not react at all.
When you were a kid and you were like playing on the playground with your friends or whatever, did you ever do your, I don't think you would have ever done this, but it's something that you would mostly hear like grade school boys say, do over, do over.
Oh, all the time.
Yeah,
All
do
the
over,
time.
do
Yeah.
over. That's where we're at. We're at do over on the playground. That's the energy of it. It's not,
Mhm.
oh gosh, do it over. It's a haha. No, no, that didn't happen that way. That didn't happen. Do over, do over.
I'm taking a mulligan on that one.
Taking a mulligan. Wow.
Hey, I've been an old soul for a long time, so you gotta give me mulligan. You know, but that's just it. That's the kind of playfulness of it.
Yeah.
Imagine all the times, and for me, I absolutely relate it to playing miniature golf because man, I did not like to lose. So if I if I didn't make it, it was like clearly things were amiss.
Do over, do
So
over.
I get a do-over, and I'm gonna keep doing it over until it makes it in that little hole exactly the way I want it to. And some of that was, a distortion, but I'll let that be whatever it was at the time. But that is the
Yeah.
kind of energy is like, "No, no, no, no. I'm not happy with the way that turned out. I wanna go back and do it again. I'm gonna keep trying, and I'm gonna keep trying something new
And that's the other
until I
thing that's been
figure it
coming
out."
through for me. What helps me is the words I get to.
Mhm,
I've been practicing using those in my conversation, especially when it comes to, say, letting someone go on the phone, like, I'm going to let you go. I have to do this thing.
mhm.
I've been trying to say, I'm going to let you go. I get to do this thing. There is a small but pervasive level of shame when it comes to talking to people about things that you are treating as opportunities. Does that make sense?
Mm.
There is a difference between saying to someone, "Oh, I'm going to let you go because I have to go do this thing." It's okay if I let them go if the thing I have to do is something that I have to suck it up and take responsibility and be an adult about. But it's not okay for some reason to let someone go off the phone if it's for something that's better than talking to them. I noticed that the
Yeah.
other day when I did that with a friend. I was like, I get to go to the store. I was actually looking forward to going to the store because I
Mhm.
had a lot of things on my list that I wanted to get so I could bring them home and make myself food with. I was excited about this. I have so little that I've been excited about lately that I challenged myself in that moment mentally in my head to say to this person, I get to go to the store now. And I'm sorry, friend, but I'd rather go to the store than continue to talk to you. And it was
I love that.
absolutely 100% true. So if you can work the words I get to into, even if it's something
Yeah,
that you don't want to do necessarily, but you want it done,
yeah.
then look at the benefits of getting it done instead of the detriment of having to do it and
Well, yeah,
see
because then
how it starts to change your perspective.
you get to cross it off your list.
Yeah, you don't have to think about it anymore. You get to free that energy that you were using to put it off, and you get to flood all of that energy into something else that you would like to do even more.
And just say, "I get to go be free now,"
Yeah.
and let whatever is the thing that you're gonna do be that freedom,
Mhm.
because it's something that you're choosing.
Mhm.
I like that. I like
Thanks.
that a lot.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
I think
use
we've done the
that.
thing. Have we done the thing?
Yeah, we've absolutely done the thing, I think.
There's no more thing to do?
I think there's no more thing to do. I think we've done all the
Sweet.
things.
I'm down with it.
Right on. I feel like we should start like we're at 1 hour and 19 minutes and like 57 seconds. I feel
Well,
like we
not
need to
now.
wait
Now
until
we're at
no.
120.
Ah, we ruined the moment.
Yep.
All
It took
right.
you too long. Anyway, check us out on social media. We've got an Instagram. It's using our inside voice. We've got a Patreon where stuff happens. I don't know. Find us, listen to us. If you like us, give us a thumbs up somewhere. There's plenty of those to go around.
Right? Share it with
Yeah.
someone. We're
I,
cool
I
people.
really
We
hate
don't bite.
I hate talking to myself. I hate talking to myself. So let us know you're out there. Is anybody out there? Are we floating around in space by ourselves? Are you people listening, tuning in? We'd like to know. We'd like to know what's going on in your lives. We'd like to talk to you. When we release the show, we do a Discord meetup. So don't let Discord scare you off. It's just a friggin' old school chat room. It's not a big deal.
If
So
I
go
can do
make
it,
yourself
anybody can do it.
right. Go make yourself a Discord account. Come and chat with us. I mean, we're there for over an hour and we're talking about all the things and whatever you want to talk about. It's a good time and it's free. What do you have to lose?
Right? What are you waiting for?
Yeah. Come
All
play
right,
with
y'all.
us.
Come play with us.
And we'll talk to you
Absolutely.
next time.
Bye bye, y'all.